I like how I get the stream going, and then immediately I notice that there's like mucus like right in the line in my sinuses. So now I'm gonna have to grossly snot rocket onto the floor. There we go. Um, I know the stream wanted to see that. That was awesome. All right, so
tissues are a thing that exist.
yeah, but they're over there and made of cloth. I don't. I'm zero waste. I just use a piece of cloth if I need something. But so I just use the piece of cloth that is the floor apparently. I'm not gonna sound like I need to blow my nose. I get irritated with those people, like when it's clear that they need to blow their nose, or if it sounds like they need a CPAP. Like like for instance, like Andrew Chatterton from the Michigan area, he constantly sounds like diseased more than vaguely. So
He's Chatterton.
what?
He's Chatterton.
Yeah, which sounds like a dumb brand of cheese. Doesn't it?
I mean, they're in close proximity to Wisconsin, so I mean, it'll be natural.
And it's like
it'd be cheese adjacent.
And he looks like a dumb cheese. He looks like he's rotten cheese. He's like a big hunk of Chatterton.
And just call Adrian, and he'll be Malagon.
Yeah, but Adrian is if you have both of them in the same place, you just get a cheese and fish platter. So yeah, I heard somebody call him an alcoholic trout once, and I thought that was funny.
Alcoholic trout is seething.
That's hilarious. Alcoholic trout.
So we have the meats tonight, even if we're vegan, which none of us are.
I'm vegetarian.
Well,
I'm sorry, everyone.
No, you're vegetarian, but you're not vegan. You eat the meat that needs to be curdled and cultured. It's udder meat.
Evidently.
If you think about it, isn't it like it's still proteins?
Oh yeah, no, it's protein. It just doesn't like if an animal doesn't die to make it happen, I'm fine with it.
Right.
In theory, but I mean, most of those dairy cows eventually get sent to become hamburgers.
I'm actually like annoyingly picky about what yogurt and dairy products I do buy, so that I can avoid that. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's the thing, because I always found it odd that like, okay, you can be vegan, but like, what if you just have like pet chickens that are allowed to live nice natural lifespans? Are you actually obligated to throw the eggs away? Like, I see no harm in eating the eggs because they lay them naturally. And same with cows. Like, you have a pet cow. Like, I mean, okay, I guess they'll stop producing milk if you stop breeding them, though. So, yeah, I guess.
And at least the eggs are getting laid. So, Kareem.
I mean, yeah.
Kareem.
That's a common problem that, something that just there's a lack of that happening in our society, and it's causing all these societal problems.
Certainly
so
in
much
libertarian
frustration
circles.
in our society.
Yeah. Kareem, you're down at the bottom of the camera. Are you like doing some nipple action? We can't see your chest, so we can't verify. So we'll get going now. We got it's chaos already. We got plenty to do. Also, I was on a show with lots of AI generated content that I wasn't crazy about called Freedom Uncut. If y'all want to go check that out, you can. But I was delivering the facts about libertarian society to a bunch of right libertarians. So y'all can feel free to check that out. I proudly bottomed the leaderboard. I am a power bottom. So y'all feel free to check that out. Also, the good news we'll start with to just like freshen people up. Angela's gone. Woo!
This fight is not over yet, though. I mean,
no.
Who the new boss is going to be?
Just feels like 1905. That's what. Yeah, it's just beginning.
Dress
rehearsal.
What?
Like
what, Kareem?
Justin Amash would be based if he does it.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings, but as an LP chair, I think he could probably be okay. He'd be professional, and he would not, I think, cause further division, which is kind of what we need.
Yeah, we don't need further division. We need further division. Uwu. Kareem?
I mean, we already know that. Yeah, we're gonna force you to run for chair. So let's just get used to having these things said.
Hashtag furry chair. Kareem.
I don't think a mosh would be like, hey, Democrats, here's money. Hey, Trump, here's money. Hey, Republicans.
Hey, myself, here's money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Hey,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know where all this money came from and why the party is weirdly bankrupt despite claiming we're bringing in all this money in donations from having things like opposing candidates show up at our conventions.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing. That whole thing was sold as a way to bring money to the convention, and yet we were weirdly... yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes the most simple explanation is staring you right in the face and people don't see it.
I'm a kingmaker.
Ugh.
And of course, the simple explanation has always been that this is an appeal to fascism from people who advocate cultural conservatism.
Right, but I'm thinking much more simply than that. I'm thinking just, there were always certain people who were more interested in just self-dealing and making a name for themselves, and also, making money off of the name recognition that would come from being associated with a major political third party.
Yeah. Oh, also, speak that. First off, Kareem, do you have headphones? I'm curious.
Somewhere.
Yeah, that would be ideal because I think there's some echo. But also, the general. So we've got spaces on Twitter again now. I ran a space the other day with ANCAP Air talking about how like Ross Ulbricht being free doesn't make us any freer. I also it was a great space that sort of spiraled into various discussions about various things, which is exactly what I want from those things. And the next space will be on Insanity is Free on Twitter on Wednesday about parallel societies and how to free yourself manually prior to the state fucking off if it ever does. So do that, get there. Beyond that, either as a viewer or as a speaker, should you have a whole lot to say about forming parallel libertarian societies, I will have things and places that people can say words about things on. So, Tarantulas, what is this Twitter you speak of? See, I'm never going to call it X, because I'm not going to gratify a dumb fascist, and that's what Elon Musk is.
See, what's so annoying is I get annoyed every time I have to type out the word Twitter. It's so much easier to just write X, but I know.
Well,
I don't like calling it X because it's a stupid name.
If you want a shorthand, you could just do what I do most of the time and like make everything weirdly abbreviated. Because like somebody from California, I do that all the time. I'll like have an acronym or something like. I don't even. So here's my thing.
The thing is, I usually can understand you just fine, so it does work.
Yeah, like so. I want everybody, when they get time, to try and restructure the way they type time so that this is, like, universalized. Time is dumbly typed. I don't need to know that it's standard time or daylight time. That doesn't matter to me. Does the clock say what the time is? If that's the case, then that's the time that is at. So don't tell me that it's, like, for instance, 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. If it's 4 p.m. that I'm going for, I'm going to look at the clock and say, hey, is it 4? I'll do it then. I've
never heard anyone say like 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time in common parlance, though.
Right. Well, but that's part of the thing. So you take out that middle letter, and then you're left with ET, right? Or PT or something like that. Why do you have T? We all know that it's the time we're talking about. So we could just say E, P, C, sort of something like that. M for mountain. Things like that. We could just say...
It's usually just EST. Does
Eastern
EST really take much longer to type than ET?
But it's E that I want. If it's Eastern
Our
time,
job
for
applications
instance.
love that.
See, we need a noun. It's 4 p.m. Eastern what? Eastern horses, Eastern
Well, I mean, if
desks.
you need a noun, the subject can be implied in a sentence.
It can be, but...
So,
just for the people who are absolute morons.
But those people, like, if they missed an appointment, that'd be fine because the meeting would go more efficiently. So, like, if you think about
I
it,
like the idea of having built-in like
safeguards,
checks against stupidity.
Yeah, and then so
This is
go.
problem though with you doing like A and P as well. So first of all, I do 24-hour time, so I reject the premise of AM
That
and
makes it
PM.
easier.
However, yes, no, it absolutely does. But when you Jeremiah write like 4P, and then there's no M, again, it's an adjective without a noun problem, because post what? Well, post meridian, but I don't know. I mean, it could be post air freshener. I don't know. I need a noun.
But why, if I'm saying a time that something's at, would I not be talking about meridian?
Because you could be at a lot of places.
But I'm not. We're talking. So the conventions are already understood, and we could foreshorten it to save time. It's like how okay used to be spelled OKAY, and nobody does that anymore. You know?
I do. What the fuck, man?
Well, so I'm throwing you under the bus here. Amanda's
You
old.
are. No, man. I'm okay. So I'm a student, so maybe that's why I have to do things correctly in terms of, rules of grammar and spelling and speech and the like.
Oh, okay. Because yeah.
But
we have linguistic.
Once you stop being a student, you realize, hey, all that shit I was taught to do correctly is bullshit. Like, I don't think I've ever had to round to 4 significant figures ever in my life. I mean, come on, but they force you to do that in like chemistry class.
That is true. I find linguistic conventions that were nice, but I write.
I can round to 1 significant figure, and it's just fine, and all my experiments fucking work. Okay.
I am the significant figure to which I round.
Well, so but that's the thing. Like, I could say in the same amount of characters, like 15E, and it would still say the thing that I needed to say, or 1530E or something like that. I could still say that, and it would make perfect sense, right? Even in that 24-hour clock framework. But then I could also say, instead of 15E, I could say 3PE, and it would be the same characters. So it's still more efficient to type just the letter, and also, like, if I'm not typing, like, in the 24-hour, I can type the time for the letter, like the A or the P. And then, like, I could still, in the 24-hour framework, use the same amount of characters. So we're still wasting characters. We don't need to do any of that. And somehow that became what's popular, even though it fucking sucks, and I hate it.
People use the efficiency argument to plug AI as well. I wouldn't be going down this road if I were you.
But see, I'm actual intelligence. This is a human making this decision, and humans never do anything stupid. So
we were just talking about Angela McArdle, man. We were just talking about her.
Human though, that might be a little bit no. So, but yeah, like I think like that's so.
We are now dehumanizing people on this stream.
Yeah.
Look how far we've come since we all first met.
So, to be clear, these people are evil. Angela McArdle is one of those evil people. And we'll be discussing the person she sold out to today, which is Trump, and his MAGA minions. And the Trump camp. Like, now that we're fucking... How far are we into this stream already? We're in, like, 13 minutes deep, and...
Yeah, weren't we supposed to talk about, like, Trump executive orders or something?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So, we've got... and it's entirely my fault, because, like, I had to do my sidebar about fucking time. So we've got
very efficient.
Fucking time is always a good time.
But see, if I do this, if I successfully get this movement started to change the clocks, and to change the way people write, and everybody starts doing it, I save people like a collective billions of microseconds a day, and that could save like hours and hours of time a year.
For labor, and they can spend it more on their labor. Actually, we should do this with the entire language. We should cut out letters of the alphabet. We should change linguistic conventions, and then people can concentrate on their labor.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
I mean,
brand new idea. No one's
how
ever
many
tried
people
that.
actually write on actual computers nowadays? Most of us are on phones. You have to manually press each. It's really fucking annoying. Okay, I would support this movement to just have everyone chat, like write in chat speak, and have it not get you labeled as a high school girl. Like,
No, I would like
that'd be
everyone
acceptable.
to be writing treatises and have it and not getting labeled a pigeon's asshole. I would prefer that much more. But That's
Well,
strange.
we could do both though. Like, also imagine the laughability of a treatise where it's like instead of saying that this person's argumentation is laughable, it's like you ain't lead, lol. And it's
Yep.
fucking. It's like, oh, I find this person obsequious drone, and it's like simp. Fucking, but you can condense so much
This law
information.
is not skibbity toilet, Riz.
Nope. You might as well be in Ohio. So speaking of that, let's talk about a guy who has a difficulty. First off, actually, yeah, we'll respond to Chris Bennett real quick. Did you hear about McGrifter's 750K embezzlement fund? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking, and like the thing is, like, those of us who have been tracking her for any period of time knew things like this were happening. But Jake Porter and Liberty Sentries really blew the fucking lid off of this in a lot of ways. So, y'all go follow both of them if you want more information about words that you can say. Then also join LP Alliance Discord and join the thing. If you're into the Libertarian Party kind of side of things. If you're not, I've got a cult and we have chili. So...
you can theoretically do both too. You can be a double cult member. You can join LP Alliance, and you can be part of the cult that may or may not turn you into chili dogs if you ever displease the dear leader.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh God, is that what happens?
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Oh, gosh.
they
The
theorized.
people who leave the cult, the apostates, yeah, you're probably not going to hear from them again, and you're just not supposed to ask what happened.
Yeah.
It's fucking Sweeney Todd over here.
See, Sweeney Todd maybe, but also Sweeney Todd was like just throwing them away. You've got to do something with that.
No,
Right?
for Sweeney Todd, you eat them.
Really? Okay, it's
Those
been
things
a
are
long
actually- They bake them
time.
into pies. I was in Sweeney Todd.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, we should see. That's what we should do. That's how we feed the world. There's just one that goes every once in a while.
Or you could take a page out of the Majin Buu book from Dragon Ball Z, turn everyone into chocolate bars.
I didn't watch that enough to know what you're talking about.
It's the final arc in Dragon Ball.
So basically, when they were running out of ideas,
They're like, this
Pretty
guy's. They're,
that's where you, like, if the people are being turned into chocolate bars, that's where you know the writers are officially out of ideas.
they're like, this guy's fat. We know what to do with that. All right, so let's get started with the first thing. The first sort of, I think, item on the agenda should be discussing the America First policies. Now, those are the ones that you seemed the most interested in because they have the most deleterious effect on free markets. So, John, if you want to introduce yourself and give your first spiel, you're free to.
Oh boy, like this is one of the things about this whole Trump thing that's gonna especially just kill me watching people like lose their have brain rot over. Because for some reason, everybody and their mom thinks that if you restrict competition for something in one industry, it's not going to have negative consequences. And oh no, it's just going to protect the workers. Like it's going to protect steel if we limit people from buying steel from foreign countries or something.
Mm-hmm.
And how many times there's data pointing out this is going to have negative ripple effects into other sectors and make the cost of living more expensive. They keep dismissing it either by saying things like, oh, you just want cheap bubblegum or something, or you just want a cheap iPhone, you're okay with Chinese people being enslaved in sweatshops. It's like, besides the fact that it's a bad faith argument, it's like, why is economic illiteracy so cool to these people?
Mm-hmm.
That's what tells me. And it's like, even as somebody who, at least compared to most politicians, I hold Warren G. and Calvin Coolidge in high regard. If there was any blip on their record, it was the support of tariffs, which was a part. They were the original America First presidents at that. But everything else they did was like, compared to what we're calling MAGA, is like night and day. And then if people really think that this is just baloney about tariffs causing economic consequences, if people want to look further back enough, like if you want to go back to the 1600s, 1630s, to Japan, for instance, The era that anime Blue-Eyed Samurai depicts, when they were still under the isolationist policy where there was restrictions against leaving Japan, there was restrictions against who can come into Japan, there was restrictions against the flow and travel of goods from Japan to other areas, especially, and then they even like mass deported Europeans out of Japan at this time. Look at the economic situation under Emperor Uematsu compared to the economic situation under Emperor Meiji like hundreds of years later, when they went more free trade. Like, even just a priori, you can tell that Japan was in a much better economic situation during the Meiji era than they were during the time of Uematsu.
Well, and like, elaborate a little bit for those of us who aren't like up on Japanese history.
Like, under Uematsu, there was several different policies that was imported supposedly to help the worker or whatever. Whether, for one, and it was also because they had a distrust of basically everybody, where they decided that they were going to, in a literal sense and not in the straw man sense, cut themselves off from the world, quote unquote, where Europeans was mass deported out of the country. If you traveled to or caught exchanging goods with people outside of Japan, the penalty was death. On top of that, there were land taxes. And so it was a mixture of restrictions on trade and land tax that causes consequences where basically the peasant class, quote unquote, didn't really get anything good, but then well-connected elites and industries got a good boon out of it. So it was during that period that, like, if you ever watch the anime Blue-Eyed Samurai, or there's even another anime that kind of like does a fictionalized version of this era, except with like a much more absurd policy of like this plague that just kept killing the men, so the female emperors would take on male names and stuff, and they kind of like cover the history. But if it's during that period that a lot of the isolationist policies that would later get reversed under Emperor Meiji, when he decided that Japan kind of needed to become competitive, so they started embracing free trade, trading with other countries, and started to take on a bit more free market-ish policies compared to previous eras, that you started to see Japan become a genuinely prosperous nation.
Yeah. And so also, so from that perspective, let's get Amanda, who is brand, I think, new to the channel. Have you been on this channel before, or just the Spaces?
Particular channel? No.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So
welcome to the club.
Yeah.
I love it already. I just don't want to be a chili dog.
Yeah, right. Yes,
you just have to choose your words very carefully.
Yeah, choose the short ones. My gosh, and abbreviate everything.
Yeah, right.
Right on.
You not even like there is no Warren Bossing.
Have
say
the
you're just
correct
like
opinions on Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, right. You're just like you can't even say there is no Warren Bossing. So you just have to say nuh-uh.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah. So and also hello to the viewers that I have almost guaranteeably just spurred from posting this on Gab. I'm going to use that platform more to get people on board with these streams. So, hello. Also, so Amanda, like general introduction and what's your general thoughts on the Trump situation so far?
General introduction. My name is Amanda. I'm a libertarian, and I also happen to be unfortunately involved in the Libertarian Party, the LP Alliance, and I am a student presently. I am the creator of the soon-to-be world-famous Substack, Agitpop International, about a parody album about the Russian Revolution, because it's very funny, the Russian Revolution is. My thoughts on the general Trump situation thus far are similar to what we just heard expressed. I think there is a remarkable inability that we're witnessing to think in terms of second-order effects when it comes to some of these economic policies in particular. And the one thing that is disturbing to me is how both parties are coalescing around the protectionism when it comes to trade, when it comes to economic policies, when it comes to supporting, big unions at the expense of actual dynamics that help workers and that help consumers. cartel-like behavior. So that's what worries me most in terms of the downstream effects, that there just seems to be an unwillingness to support policies that are actually going to create not just economic prosperity for people, but a general attitude of self-ownership and free will. It really shifts the culture in an unfavorable direction.
Rose.
And you're all familiar with me by now. I'm Rose, patron saint of Real Libertarians, active member, also unfortunately, of the New York Libertarian Party, member of the State Committee, Communications Division. I served my first term on National Platform Committee, former member of the Mises Caucus, now a member of the LP Alliance. Definitely recommend checking them out if you want to get involved in this civil war that's currently raging within the Libertarian Party. So, as for the topic, so I've been watching this trend unfold for years now. Predictably, every 5 to 10 years or so, you see a certain type of libertarians aligning themselves with the authoritarian right-wingers or right-wing populists or whoever happens to be in power on the right, thinking that they're going to find allies there because right-wing statists have always been very good at paying lip service to libertarian ideas. They'll start talking about individual liberty. They'll start talking about free markets. And libertarians will think, hey, they share a lot of, we can work with this. They share a lot of our values. They said that they'll fix such and such laws. They said that they're going to pass these policies that we agree with. Okay, every single time it turns out to be a bait and switch. And then every single time the libertarians find themselves thrown under the bus, all it takes is one major social event, such as, for example, an economic crash or a terrorist attack or something, and then the statists are all like, oh, it's because of those libertarians. We listened to them, and that's why we rolled back the surveillance state, or that's why we loosened our economic regulations, and now look what happened. Okay, they discredited themselves, and now we can justify grabbing power. And then things get worse. Okay, cycle repeats itself. 5 to 10 years go by. It seems to be happening faster and faster now. People get sick of living under an authoritarian, repressive statist regime. Libertarian ideas start looking attractive once again and start gaining popular traction. Certain types of libertarians once again think, hey, look, our ideas are becoming mainstream again. That means we're going to get them implemented. And the same shit happens over and over. It's a cycle that's doomed to repeat itself. So that's why I'm interested in talking about what's currently going on with the state and with the guy that way too many libertarians decided to back because they thought he was going to represent their interests, and or they thought that they could influence him, whatever other bullshit reason they had for supporting him.
Kareem. In the corner of the screen. That could be the pop song.
All right, I'm an ANCAP man, an ANCAP stand for the great ANCAP standing people.
Well, you're in the bottom left corner of the screen, so that's not true. Also, you're a little bit up, so you're a little bit authoritarian.
Yay.
So he's, I warned you guys he was going tanky, and I'm right.
You're actually in the tanky portion on the stream right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bottom left, but yeah, he's trending up.
It's a holiday in Cambodia.
We're gonna have to drag him back before it's too late.
You want to play some Dead Kennedys?
No, because I would get the stream fucked. Jello Biafra has some issues with being a punk, unfortunately.
Jeez.
It's kind of based.
Well, I mean, he's got points that are good. We can do a whole stream at some point on punk.
Oh, Jello?
Yeah.
I actually have to research it a little bit better. But you can find me on Blue Sky at Cream Maze. I am on Blue Sky now. So Cream6633 on X. Anarch Unity. I'm still part of the Libertarian Party. I don't have any bad will to anybody in the Libertarian Party. I just have a simple request. Libertarian Party should be used for libertarians. Funding should be used for libertarian candidates, causes. And if you want to, I can't tell people not to do single issue coalitions, because I've done single issue coalitions with literally every other party that exists.
I'm all about single issue coalitions. It doesn't mean you have to endorse their candidates, and it doesn't mean you have to sell out to them. Like, there's a difference.
Well, I ran for school board with two Republicans and a Democrat. I went to a pro-Palestine march, and I saw this guy walking around, and then there was a bunch of them, and I'm like, and I could see, I'm like, you guys are part of a party? They're like, yeah, Green Party. I'm the regional director. I'm like, oh, Libertarian Party. He's like, yeah. I'm like, so what are you guys doing these days? Environment? He's like, we just want to end the war in Gaza, and then we'll figure.
By the way, you're cutting out a little bit because you're further away from your mic.
Okay.
Now you're inaudible.
You can't hear me now?
We can hear you now. It just cut out completely for sure. But...
And then there was a protest for masks, and I met a guy from the Constitution Party. We got in an argument, so that was fun.
Real quick, we've got Neutrino Dev saying USA repeatedly. We respect those with Tourette's. You're free to be in the chat. Feel free to send.
Yeah, we're not going to be ableist here. We're all
USA.
USA. So.
And feel free to send this to all of your MAGA friends. Same with you, Chris Kelly and Carl Johnson. Any of you who want to send this to as many MAGA people as possible, you're free to do so.
We can go buy some houses in Greenland. It looks really nice. And then freeze. Yeah,
right? Well, actually, like... See, to me, here's the thing. I'm conflicted because I don't like imperialism, but I do like the snow and the sub-zero temperatures are literally tempting to me. So, if that did end up happening, it would be hard for me to resist the colonial imperialist tendencies to go move there.
You could just move to Syracuse, New York, for similar effect. Okay, it's one of the snowiest cities in the country.
Yeah, but then I would also have to live in New York.
I mean,
we just got some snow in
What about Canada?
I mean, I live here, so you know.
Well, yeah, but you don't want to.
True.
You constantly say that.
I've been trying to get out for my entire life, and I can't. And the thing is, I know so many people who left, and they always inevitably come back for one reason or another. It's like you can't actually fucking leave New York.
Move to Spokane. It's a city too. That should be like what Spokane's slogan is. It's a city too.
Is it though?
It is. It's gigantic.
Well, people need to understand that New York is not just New York City, and that we hate those people. Okay. As an anarchist, I would support building a fucking wall around New York City.
Hey, Kurt Russell would support your decision. Kurt Russell, anyone? Escape from New York?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Okay. I thought he was dead.
He's actually a libertarian, funny enough.
Yeah.
It was a joke, Jeremiah. Snake Plissken joke.
Well, and I see, the thing is, I was actually about to look that up because it's on my bucket list to meet Kurt Russell and like talk to him about all the stupid bitches who don't like Escape from LA. Because that was fucking good. That was how I got introduced to the series. And then everybody's like, oh, that one sucked. And it's like, fuck you. Eat a knife.
And he's, of course, the inspiration for the Metal Gear character as well, right? Solid Snake.
Is that true? I would really like that to be true.
To my understanding, he is, at least partially, because I think they even made like a skin once that was modeled after Snake Plissken in homage to him.
Yo, like, when you're saying that, I never connected those dots. He looks like Snake. That's fucking based. If that's true, Hideo Kojima over here, like, reeling it in for us fucking movie nerds.
Dan Crenshaw looks like Solid Snake.
Does a little bit.
Dan Crenshaw has an eye patch. He's way too much of a bitch to be Solid Snake. We got hate is never the answer. Okay. What if I ask the question, what is hate? If you said hate, would that be a bad answer? Think about it.
What if I hate people that are hateful?
Exactly. Yeah.
Ask the question, do you hate the state?
I don't
hate.
I find that hate is distracting like, okay, so if you have an enemy and you spend too much time hating them rather than like plotting how to take them down, hate will cloud your ability to make decisions.
But what if I'm doing both?
And then if they actually like cease to be a factor anymore, then you have nothing. Like you're like the dog that catches the thing it's chasing, and now you don't know what to do with yourself.
Yeah.
That's why you've always got to have like you've got to get like schizo moded about it. You get voices in your head, and like all of them have a different target, and like each of them like it's a take your number kind of line situation. And then you get the next voice in your head, and you do what they want, and then you just move on all the time. Everyone's happy. It's a consortium. It's like mental communism. Anyway,
I think Neutrino Dev, because I'm hijacking looking at the comments too. I'm watching this on YouTube. Hate can be useful as a tool for change. Just depends how you use it. Anger, certainly, and mobilizing others. Hate, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Hate is a tool for change with yourself. Again, it's a sentiment, it's a passion, and those can make decision making very, very difficult very quickly.
I will admit can. But like I personally identify as a ball of hate with a freight train of grudges, so
that's the thing. Yeah, you're like a laser guided missile of pure hate. So, which may or may not end up directed at the correct target.
Exactly. Sometimes there's a misfire, and then I can blame it on Palestine. So
Oh, God.
I made John die. You know, if there's not at least one joke at Israel's expense, it's not one of my streams. All right, so to get into the actual EOs, because there are people in the chat who are like busting it out over here, like maybe gooning on the edge of trying to figure out where we're doing this. Let's start with America First, because the America First thing, I think, is the most egregious of the EOs, because it's not America First beyond anything else. And so on January 20th, he said, memorandum for all of this, blah, blah, blah. Section 1, in 2017, my administration did everything right and there was nothing wrong. And then like it's like Section 2, addressing unfair and unbalanced trade. The Secretary of Commerce, in consultation with the Secretary of the Treasury and the U.S. Trade Representative, shall investigate the causes of our country's large and persistent annual trade deficit in goods. So it's like you don't even know yet, and you're saying that the prescription should be tariffs. The Secretary of the Treasury, in consultation with the Secretary of Commerce and the Secretary of Homeland Security, shall investigate the feasibility of establishing and recommend the best methods for designing, building, and implementing an external revenue service to collect tariffs, duties, and other foreign trade-related revenues. That's the first part. So John had a bunch to say about that. Anybody have anything to say about that section so far?
This whole idea that we need another alphabet agency to get rid of the problems of another alphabet agency is like peak, like just galaxy brain to me from Trump. Mm-hmm. But then on top of that, this whole thing about trade deficits, like freak, I have a trade deficit with Aldi's and I'm pretty happy about it. Like that means nothing. The word trade deficit means nothing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's like, and it's one of those things. It makes me think back to, it makes me think to whenever I would read Frederick Bastiat. And one of the things, I remember he made this whole satirical article where he was, quote unquote, petitioning the government to regulate the sun because it would create a boon for candle makers. And that's basically, when people talk about unfair competition, that's just basically what they're arguing.
Yeah. And Carl Johnson accurately says that's a reference to the law. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's not that long. If people want to read something simple that explains basic classic liberal principles, the law is a great read. So Kareem, speaking of reads, do you have, because normally you're the one to come in with sort of a left anarchist thing on this, do you have a thing to say about tariffs from that perspective?
I don't know if I have a thing on left anarchists for that. Actually, who's really good with tariffs is Jack. But To give an answer for that, if you watch Reason, which I'm not a fan of Nick Gillespie, but he has this guy who makes funny little like music videos. And the guy said that trade deficit, I can't applaud. He's like, we have a trade deficit with Santa Claus. Free trade is like a magic wand, makes what you do best into what you want. So it's like, okay, we have a trade deficit for bananas. I don't want to make bananas here. They would taste like crap. So that's really the ins and outs of it. Is a trade deficit isn't necessarily bad. We have a trade deficit with the grocery store, like Dead Boy was saying.
Yeah.
The issue is tariffs always get passed back to the consumer. So I'm not a fan of that. Now, I agree with the Austrians on that. I'm 100% with the Austrians on that. Where I disagree is that you can have collective ownership of some items or not. I do believe in collectively owned property and workers' co-ops, but that's a different story. But tariffs I can't really see any point to tariffs. If someone's not treating you fairly, you either renegotiate or don't trade with them. That's it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things people forget about free trade is that in a free trade system, you're free to decide who you want to trade with and who you don't want to trade with.
Yeah, and by the way, all of the people in chat that are sore about this, feel free to subscribe so that you can be perpetually sore. We have plenty of discussions like this, and you're free to be angry in the comments should you so choose. So the
Tariffs, not tariffs.
So the general, also the other half of the thing is like
We had someone mad about the word ableist. I just checked the chat.
Oh, that's why your cam was off. Yeah, we got to get you like an actual PC.
Yes. I swear that's the only reason my cam was off, and there was no other reason why.
At least she wasn't. Were you muted too? Because I'm going to start asking questions.
Oh, she was.
You're muted. Oh, okay. Well, then
yes.
there are no questions to ask, quite frankly.
Yeah, the channel rule became that if your camera's off, that like you're jacking off under the table, and also then later on, Amanda said that for her specifically, the rule would have to be that you would have to be muted as well, so that we couldn't hear anything.
Oh, I didn't say for me
Again,
specifically. Okay.
Doesn't have to. I pity anyone who doesn't have to be muted at the same time.
If you don't need to be muted, you're doing it wrong. I'm sorry. You're just not enjoying enough.
I'm operating. It happens. But yeah, so that, and then the United States trade. I'm gonna stop doing the Trump voice because it's probably amusing, but it's gonna be irritating for me.
I don't hear enough of a Trump voice though.
Yeah, right. The United States trade.
You're half-assing it anyway.
Yeah, and he has a real big ass, like nice, juicy, like he's on that estrogen. The United States Trade Representative, in consultation with the Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary of Commerce, and Senior Counselor for Trade and Manufacturing, shall undertake a review of and identify any unfair trade practices by other countries, and recommend appropriate actions to remedy such practices under applicable authorities, including, but not limited to, the Constitution of the U.S., include sections blah blah, United States Code blah blah, and trade agreements implementing acts. Now, those are a bunch of numbers. Those reference a bunch of things that maybe we'll go over on some other day. I know we've got a lawyer who's interested in coming in and analyzing this from a legal perspective, but I think he had issues logging in with Skype, so we don't have him yet. But yeah, basically, like, he's going to point at other countries and say, you have unfair trade practices. I wonder if anybody could talk about unfair trade practices that start with the U.S. government and affect other countries. Maybe Amanda, who works with the if I recall, Cato Institute?
I used to work with the Cato Institute a long time ago. I was editorial director for Center for Monetary and Financial Alternatives. Man, I don't... One thing that we always get up in our, up in our grits, I don't know, I don't have any good cliches right now, about is the, happens to be the Jones Act, which is more just about it's anti-competitive. But, I mean, basically anything that the U.S. wants to dominate, any market that the U.S. wants to dominate, it can do so through regulations. You know, for me, it's difficult, right? Because when you're trading on the global scale, on the global marketplace, then you're dealing with people who are all operating by different rules, right? It's not as though, and you can even have free trade agreements, but then there are workarounds for that. Fair trade agreements, there are workarounds for that. With the WTO, for instance, China does get to claim developing country status willy-nilly because we don't actually have any qualifications for what constitutes a developing country, so they can get away with all kinds of stuff. And we let them because they're a good enough trading partner and we get enough from them to not push too hard. So in terms of unfair trading practices, it's endemic to the entire system, especially when it comes to trade agreements on this multinational scale that can constantly be manipulated.
Yeah. Well, also, like, the other half of it is, like, these different cultures and different ways of handling situations, they're going to inherently have, like, specific requirements. It's not just like a question. If you're working with like a primarily Muslim country, they're going to have certain requirements for imports and exports. Same with like certain East Asian stuff. And like, you know, like you could say the same thing for it. And so understanding their customs means understanding where they're coming from. And America has always done the opposite, with very few exceptions, where America has tried to basically force other countries onto the program with the WHO. Sorry, not the WHO. I mean the WHO, but the World Bank, the IMF, yeah. The various other, the Trilateral Commission, various other ways of basically forcing people into line with the Anglo-American establishment. And so, like, all of this stuff is like mechanized to create a global network that they get to control. And if you ask me, that's pretty fucking unfair.
Yeah, it's pretty unfair. They're trying to bully other countries and trying to pick winners and losers.
Yeah. And now he's doing that, like, and then saying it's because they're unfair. It's like, bitch, we wrote the book.
Yep.
And, like, I'm sure Kareem's got something to say on that in the form of, like these nations that have historically had to form like leftist governments that were eventually crushed in various ways by the Western sort of side. If you want, you're free to say some words on that.
All right, yeah, definitely, because there's people like Salvador Allende. There's people like the leaders in Chile. A lot of South American leaders that, and I'm not advocating for the state, but I am advocating for it makes sense if you live in a country and you do happen to be, I guess, elected president, that you're going to do something that's going to help your people. Now, it seems you have a window that's kind of not exactly flexible, because one thing that somebody made a good point is, you know, why does Elon care if he's in Texas? If Malay's in Argentina, he wins, great, but Maduro wins in Venezuela, oh, that's terrible, because he wants resources from one of them. Now one of them is like, yeah, come in, get whatever resources you want. And one of them is saying, no, I'm not going to give it to the West. I'll give it to other powers who are statist. Now, I don't really like either or, but that's, tragically also been South America, parts of the Middle East and Africa, where somebody, stands up and says, hey, I'm not going to give, Bechtel, Dole Fruit Company, or these Western powers any of our stuff anymore at dirt, cheap prices like the Saudis do with the oil, then they either get killed or overthrown.
Mm-hmm.
To me, if I was the United States and I have the world reserve currency, can't you just trade for that? Or come up with something that we can trade for it, like services. If we can't get it, oh well. I'm not trying to. My thing is this. I like, obviously, people want to use, nice things and people want to have luxuries. But if somebody has to be enslaved by that, then I don't like that. Now, that's why people why don't you just keep upgrading your smartphone and stuff like that? Because even smartphones, all this stuff is made by slave labor in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Now, some people say, ANCAPs will be like, okay, well, it'd be like that. And I think Roderick T. Long would say, hey, this is the problem. To mine lithium is very, very environmentally destructive and destructive to humans. So that's my problem, is that the United States is putting people in really, really bad conditions when they could otherwise trade for things, and also destroying the environment. And destroying whole countries too, destabilizing them. That's why the immigrants are coming here. They're not just coming here because they want to be here. And I'll say, yeah, there's some immigrants coming with just bad intentions. There are some immigrants coming to work, and there's everything in between. That being said, that reason to me is bad foreign policy. And if the United States wants to stop, like everybody says, we want to stop immigration, and so does Europe. Okay, you want to stop immigration. I'm not going to do the bruv party or the thing and just be like, all right, the immigrants are bad. Why are they coming here? Oh, we destabilize their countries. Maybe we should recall all those if this is really America first, and if Pete Hegseth is all about defend the guard, and like they're telling me, and because I really don't know now, because people in the Libertarian Party are saying, oh, he likes defend the guard and stuff. Some of his older stuff was neocon. That's why I didn't like him. But I don't know, because people, are throwing a bunch of stuff. But we gotta stop overthrowing countries completely. Last one being Syria. Nothing good has come out of that I can see. With Joe Lonnie.
Well, the U.S. can now build its oil pipeline that it's been wanting. So, yeah, why negotiate trade deals when you have a giant military-industrial complex that allow you to impose your will on countries instead? You don't have to negotiate fair trade deals. You just have U.S.-backed puppets in power there, and then you can have your slave labor still implement policies you want.
Yeah, and to be clear, so there's a question that I think is worth answering among a sea of the ones who aren't. Any empathy for the victims of the cartel violence? I can smell the edge in this feed. I wonder if any of your...
yes. They're the result of drug prohibition. That's a very easy one.
I wonder if any of your families...
Cartels exist because of U.S. drug policy. They would not exist if we hadn't had these retarded laws trying to legislate morality.
Yeah, I wonder if any of your family are addicts, and if you've suffered because of them. I was a liberal. My father was literally an addict for much of my childhood, and it did impact things. Honestly, it led to some tendencies in me that created. But the primary thing he was an addict to was legal. Because the most serious addictions in this country are the result of legal products like nicotine and ethanol. And those drugs aren't like the subject of cartels. There are no booze cartels anymore because it's not the 1950s.
Not anymore. There were, though, during Prohibition.
Yeah. And so, the general gist that not 1950s, earlier than that, but whatever.
1900, early 1900s.
Pre-FDR. It was during the Woodrow Wilson period, and FDR got rid of Prohibition.
Yeah. And then people could be drunk and forget about how terrible FDR was. But
that was deliberate. It was like how weed wasn't legal in New York State until the governor wanted to cover up a sexual abuse scandal.
Yep.
And then suddenly he just randomly decided that weed should be legal one day after they uncovered all these allegations of him sexually harassing his staff.
It's like
everyone's too high to care.
Chill out, man. I'm Cuomo down.
Well, the funny thing is, the sexual abuse accusations were themselves a distraction when people finally, we've been saying this since 2020. People finally were starting to pay attention to the nursing home scandal where
Yeah.
he deliberately put COVID patients
Killing
in nursing
people.
homes, causing mass deaths.
Mm-hmm.
People ignored that for years, or for at least a year, rather. Yeah. People were finally starting to pay attention. They were starting, it was starting to hit the mainstream news. Then, some lame, oh, he's a sexual harasser. Okay, yeah, like every politician ever. Like it was a scandal. It was a very vanilla scandal. And then he got out of that one too by quietly resigning after deciding that weed should be legal. Anyway, go ahead.
It's a line from like Nothing More is fucking let 'em burn, legalize whatever gets me high. It's like they're not gonna make it easier to resist. They're not going to make it easier to like overcome their structures. They're gonna build more structures, but at least you can toke. Fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure prohibition.
So anyway, what is this guy's question exactly? He was
He was virtue signaling about cartels. So like yes, there was significant addiction, and it did cause some damage. And addiction is not something I support. I am personally an advocate of clean sobriety, and I've been clean and sober for basically half a decade now. So I'm pretty good on the subject of addiction. I'm not over here telling people to get on a bunch of drugs because I don't think that's good. Instead, what they should do is they should get some home workout equipment and get shredded. They should become fitness addicts. That's because then they like the bulkier they are, the more gains they get, the better they can do in fights against the system. There are so many people who claim to want to smash the state but couldn't smash like an egg carton under their foot.
Right, yeah, being high.
Those egg cartons are heavy, man. Okay.
Being high all the time is probably not going to help you fight the state. Sorry, weeditarians, but it's true.
Yeah, you got to watch Liver King and Saladino and get started.
If you want steroids and stupidity, yes, you can listen to those people.
Fight.
Saladino doesn't do steroids.
Yeah, but he's the stupidity part.
And then when it comes to the pro-drug law type of arguments, it's like, on one hand, these people want to virtue signal about wanting, I guess, like, a better culture or better morals or whatever. But it's like, if people's morality is, I don't want to get in trouble, how moral are they really? Because that's basically what they're admitting whenever they act like we need to just make things illegal and make people more moral. Is that you just think that people only do good things because they don't want to get in trouble.
It's telling on themselves, yeah. Like, I don't need laws to tell me not to steal from people, okay? That's just basic moral values, which, I mean, I view morality as just something that follows logically from empathy. Like, for example, suppose I find someone's wallet on the ground and there's no one else around to see me, so I could very easily just take the money out of it and run and no one would ever know. But I can empathize with that person, okay? I can imagine what it'd be like if I lost my wallet and the panic I would start feeling knowing that, like, oh my God, someone has my credit card and they have my ID and, oh my God, that was all my cash. I don't think I can pay my bills this month. And like, so I'd be able to understand that and realize, okay, I don't want to like cause anyone else to feel this same way that I would feel if I were in their position. So I'm going to return the wallet to its rightful owner. Like, there's again,
so much Adam Smith.
I don't need
You're in New York, so I won't have money anyway.
Punishment looming over my head to do the right thing, okay? Like, so, yeah, if you need the state to tell you what's moral, you've already failed as a human being.
Yeah, exactly.
Matt Root in chat asks, how do you think crypto can help developing nations and offer a level playing field globally? Thoughts? That's an interesting question. It's potentially, I think, like crypto in developing nations is a whole stream of its own. But like, I'll say in general, it depends on who's doing it, because you could have like, like somebody come in and espouse the greatness of like Bitcoin with a samurai, or Bitcoin Cash with a coin joiner, or XMR or Zcash for zero snarks and like encrypted privacy coins, or Dash, because I know a Dash developer. Like there's so many things that you could tell them, but like the vast majority of people are somebody like the Mana people, the people behind the Mana project. Those people, or the WorldCoin or something like that, those are basically tantamount to digital ID and CBDC kind of mentalities, where it's like, we're going to give you enough currency that you can maybe live on something, but you're going to have to be hooked up into our global ID system, and we're going to know who you are and how you spend your currency. It's basically like a demo for the central surveillance state. So it depends on the type of currency, I would say. If somebody like started to advocate like really low intensity mining software with high rewards, so that people could like set up a rig in the middle of Mozambique, maybe, but like the vast majority of the people who are in these industries, they're trying to like jack up their own personal projects, or they're affiliated with the globalists. So it depends on who. It depends on what.
The amazing thing about the potential that cryptocurrency has, though, is that so we've gone basically our entire history trying to figure out various ways to demarcate value, and we've kind of settled on just one. When you have currency competition, you can express the value of multiple things, multiple different types of value through this system. And it's a really powerful shift in the way that we do think about value and the way that we think about how you're able to exchange and communicate that. The one thing that I think is really cool is you basically have what could be a labor voucher system, and you can get that through a cryptocurrency protocol. It opens up various ways of exchanging, not just money as we think of it today, but different mechanisms of communication that go beyond just monetary exchange.
Also, like in general, so like it would, first off, we've got, what do you think of Trump executive order banning a US CBDC? I like it on paper, and I'm not
Me
gonna,
too. Yeah. I saw that and I'm like, okay, as long as there's not some huge loophole, I'm in favor of that. Doesn't necessarily, I mean, that's supposed, like that prevents the state from forming one. Doesn't necessarily form a quote unquote private company from forming a CBDC, which is my biggest concern. Because we already, I mean, if you're familiar with like the PayPal mafia, or like in general, like Elon Musk has said he wants X to be an everything app. He wants it to be like
exactly.
Your primary communications platform, your shopping platform, your banking platform. Like I think that he does want his own form of like currency in the form of like, I don't know, some kind of X credits or something in that something along those lines. So yeah, it's a step in the right direction. I'm glad that we're not going to be getting an official CBDC from the state within like for at least another 4 years. But yeah, there are some loopholes, so it's worth still paying attention to, and don't get complacent.
Yeah. Also, real quick, just a simple guy has walked away. It's so sad. Feel free though to send it to 18 fascists you know, because then we can double the number.
Someone was watching us and they walked away.
Yeah, they're like, bye bye.
Tragic.
Yeah, so sad.
At least they said goodbye.
That's too
Nice
bad.
of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, most people just stop watching. Like it shows you the number of viewers, but doesn't necessarily show you how many watched all the way to the end. So
yeah, well,
if they give you their goodbyes, we can kind of gauge how many people actually watch our streams all the way to the end.
Yeah, it's doing an average view duration of 2 minutes right now. So most people are coming in and then walking out after 2 minutes. So I think that's funny. But so also, well, I mean, there wasn't much to say, Steve. Steve is complaining that we're saying something after he leaves. There's a lot of chat messages. If we responded to all of them, that'd be a long and boring stream. But generally, the vibe is, I think a lot of these executive orders, and we'll be talking more about them, and there's going to be a shit ton more to talk about, because like we're already an hour into this. We're probably going to be going for like another 45 minutes. Like not enough time to go over like literally all of them, but the general like vibe of the CBDC one, it's good in theory and on paper. But first off, a lot of these executive orders can be legally challenged. Like, it's not like Trump can just say something and then if it like breaks the law or isn't legally enforceable, it's just suddenly there because he said so. There are certain levels of checks and balances. So what wouldn't surprise me, because I think Trump is part of the global elite, because he's, part of the global elite, is that this is part of like some giant dog and pony show where like they're gonna challenge him on the CBDC things, and he's gonna be like, "They tied my hands. I have nothing," and like
Possible.
there'll be some giant like political theater where he'll be, fucking complaining about how the deep state is going to assassinate his ability to stop the CBDC. We've got to fight the deep state, and he'll collect a bunch of emails and signatures and do nothing with them. And there's going to be a whole lot of people who believe that they're part of some gallant fight, and then in the end, after Trump had a bunch of crypto stuff like pumped into various places, after he and his wife's like shit coins like massively spiked, there's going to be a whole bunch more cryptocurrency investments in general, and that's going to like pave the way toward the U.S. government controlling yet more and more cryptos in more and more ways. And like that will pave the way for a CBDC, because they'll be like, well, clearly there needs to be regulation. There'll be like scandals of some sort. And then after those scandals, they'll be like, well, clearly there needs to be some sort of regulation, but it'll be Trump style regulation. And then like the CBDC will be not long after, because they're like, well, we've already got this. We've already got our strategic crypto reserves that we've already been building up as part of the same executive orders. And like with all of that, why not just pump some of those into the new infrastructure and build this? Because the other half of it, he is giving $500 billion to Larry Ellison and Sam Altman. He is giving $500 billion to Oracle and OpenAI. And those are like terrible companies for freedom. And like Larry Ellison has directly promoted an AI surveillance super state where drones are following everything you do and can quickly dispatch police to your location. And a variety of other things are true about that. And then Sam Altman literally hired that guy from the NSA onto his board, like Peter Nakamoyo or something like that. And like, it's hilarious to me that anybody believes that these people are serious about freedom, because they're absolutely not.
And
You kind of saw murmurings about this actually years ago when the U.S. government, for a while there was a lot of fear mongering about crypto. You were hearing, oh, that's just for money laundering, or that's just so that you can buy drugs off the dark web. Which, okay, technically that was the original use, but there was a lot of fear mongering, and then they realized, okay, this is not going away. So suddenly, all the major financial institutions started wanting in. They started buying up large amounts of crypto, and they started pumping it. And then the state started, as far as the general public could tell, they were kind of softening their views toward it. They were kind of trying to sell people on the idea of it, but they also wanted to pull a bait and switch and then sell people on a Fed coin, basically a central bank digital currency that used the blockchain, but was of course centralized and run by the U.S. State and its crony banking cartels.
This is the beautiful thing, though, about government inefficiency, is it took them so long to realize this trend. And so now they have to play catch up. Now they are trying to play catch up at the moment right now, but it took them ages and ages and ages to figure out, oh, there's this thing called cryptocurrency. We should get on that. And then once they did realize it, they had no idea what to do with it. And it was very, very funny watching the hearings where they were trying to figure out what was a Bitcoin.
Well, these people don't even know how email works. Never forget the senator or congressperson who had to have the difference between email and a pager explained to him.
Yes.
Or the guy who, what was it? Does Wi-Fi connect to the home network?
No, does TikTok use the Wi-Fi?
Yeah. Does TikTok connect to the home Wi-Fi? Rather.
So, Kareem, you were starting to say something? Altman?
Yeah. So there was a guy who worked for OpenAI. I'll be careful here. Worked for OpenAI, had some dissenting views, did not have any thoughts of going to the astral plane anytime soon.
No, be direct. This is this channel. You know you can say words.
Okay, did not have any suicidal thoughts. Got Hillary Clinton. They had his parents on. They were Indian parents. And she's like, my son had no problems. He was healthy. He was applying for other jobs. So I'd find it very weird that you're like, man, you know, I'm on Indeed. Just not going so well. Maybe I'll go on to the next realm and see how, you know, things are there. And then he was a whistleblower. Now, I don't know what the contents of whistleblowing was. I don't know exactly what he's saying. But Sam Altman pretends to be this nice, moderate, chill guy. But you can only conclude if you have whistleblowers from your organization, you're doing something bad. And the fact that you didn't let that whistleblower say it, and he mysteriously died, but he had no intention of it, is very, very, very telling. So you got to actually sit there and think and say, like, what is going on?
Mm-hmm.
All these tech oligarchs are, okay, it's funny because I'm like looking on X, Sam Altman and Elon are fighting, and I'm like, oh boy, this is like two people I don't like. This is like an alcoholic and a crackhead trying to tell me which of their hobbies are better. One doesn't want you to work from home, work holidays, is not, to me, I don't know how he treats his employees, but I guess a little bit better than Sam Altman. But Sam Altman, it's like, hey, dissenting. And then Daddy Bezos wants you to hold your bladder. So when I say worker self-management industries in the tech field, I think there's a good reason for that. All I'm asking is that workers work together, come up with their own ideas, their own projects, that we stop relying on the big Web 2 companies for everything. There are Web 3 projects. I don't care if it's a meme coin. I don't care if it's your own idea. I see that as the future because people are like Sam Altman, like Elon, like Zuckerberg, like Bezos are going to keep screwing you over. And they're going to do very, very bad and underhanded things. They already do it to their employees. Sam Altman is particularly egregious, though, that whistleblower is gone. We have no idea why. And, you know, I'm very curious because I don't know the contents of what he was going to whistleblow about. If someone does, that would be great.
It's like, you know, it's all of that. It's like when that happened with Boeing, everybody was like, yeah, Boeing had those people axed. But when it happens with OpenAI, it's just like, you know what? Maybe we should reserve judgment. And it's like, shut the fuck up. It's all the same shit. You know it is. So, with that in mind, let's talk briefly about some of the more absurd ones that are helping bolster jingoism, like renaming the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. Any thoughts on that from anybody?
Pointless.
That is the most important thing ever. That is way more important than like
Freeing Russ Ulbricht.
Important political prisoners and solving the fact that, or helping resolve the fact that your average person can't afford to pay their bills and can't afford groceries every week. That's the most important thing I can think of. Ensuring that the Gulf of Mexico is not called the Gulf of Mexico anymore because, you don't want it called the Gulf of Mexico for some reason.
Yeah. Now Mexico, though, can rename the Gulf of California the Gulf of Mexico. Try that.
And well, see, like, also, you know, you bring up
Is it even his to rename? Like, it's international waters technically, so can he even do that? Will it be recognized?
There's international regulatory boards that decide what the international community is going to call it, and they have staunchly said it's going to still be the Gulf of Mexico. But he can technically issue guidance on what the
Mexico,
U.S.
So, okay, yeah.
They can technically issue guidance on what American institutions call it.
They can rename maps made in America, and that's about it.
Yeah. But like, so It's funny you bring up also political prisoners because, like Elon Musk, um, literally went against a political prisoner today. He said about
Oh,
Roger.
Roger Ver, yeah.
Yeah, Roger Ver gave up his U.S. citizenship. No pardon for Ver. Membership has its privileges. It's like, shut the fuck
Oh
up.
my God. Yeah, that's not concerning or anything. The guy renounced his citizenship, and the U.S. still wants a cut of what he's making.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
He was by virtue of the fact that he was born here, left. Because like the go-to argument of the fucking sadists is that, oh well, if you don't like it, leave. But as we can see, you can't. You also can't fucking leave because the state will still go after you even if you try to leave.
yeah, yeah, and like, it's funny, because he's charged with tax fraud for what? For leaving? Like he didn't want any part of the U.S. system. He wanted to leave and take his profitable enterprises with him. He didn't want to pay any taxes because he was not going to get the services. So exactly how is it fraud?
Because the slave masters hate it when you leave and stop giving them their cut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Deer is correct. Well, by the way, hello, Deer, in chat, in saying Trump is a pedo that has similar tastes in young women to Jeffrey Epstein. That is accurate. That is a quote.
That is very likely.
Well,
See,
he's
if you have actual leverage over him, that's the kind of like you should have proof of this.
what, but he said so. That's a quote. He says,
Yes.
like he has he has like the same taste in young women, and he's a lot of fun to be with.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder what he meant by fun.
Gee, I can only imagine.
Yeah, especially with those pictures of him in various, positions and parties with various women around. And they were all women, guaranteeably, because those were the camera shots. But, like, flying on that plane, I wonder where that plane went. Anyway.
Likely not to a Disney theme park, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, and if it did go to a Disney theme park, it would go for different reasons than the rides.
I like how Musk says membership has its privileges. Dude, you were born in South Africa.
Yeah!
Yeah, but he became a member,
Yeah,
so
you
therefore he thinks you should too.
A member.
A
And that's
member of
fu-
the U.S.
That's the funny thing.
Member,
It's like,
yeah,
we don't want illegals.
proudly
Get them out of
say
here.
that I am now being shaken down by this gang. You should be shaken down by the same gang too.
Yeah, we don't want illegals. Get them out of here. Okay, I don't want to leave. I'll renounce my citizenship. Like, whoa, can we get a cut? Let's make it. Well, how much are you paid in taxes? Come on, pay the state, please. Give us some of your. I think the reason is because Roger is. See, the hard part is Satoshi Nakamoto is probably multiple people because that's not a one-person operation. Let's face it. I've reviewed over 3,000 projects, 2,000 projects. I've never, ever seen a project that's one person.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually one person, and even they're hiring other people. They're just not official. So, Roger is technically the only self-made moral billionaire in history. Unless you count Jeff Berwick. I've heard Jeff Berwick has done some dicey things. I don't know if Jeff Berwick has that. But Roger's a billionaire from what he did. So that's probably why. I don't think they want to lose somebody of that. If it was like 5-10 million, who cares? But he has a huge stockpile of crypto.
Also, like, Elon Musk specifically, his family got their fortune after, like, his grandfather left. His grandfather left America, was born in America, left, and, like, stayed in Canada for a bit where he became a technocrat social credit party asshole. And then, like, once he left Canada, he went to Nazi Germany to become a literal Nazi, working with Nazi Germany. And then he moved to South Africa to live out his dying days. And that's like the start of the Elon Musk family fortune. And it's like, we're supposed to think that this guy isn't a Nazi Sieg Heiling with that hand gesture. I'm so sure.
Well, okay. So the guy is a wannabe technocratic ruler, so the idea of him being a fascist gets no argument from me. I can't help but want. I'm like, okay, but would he actually blatantly give a Nazi salute? Though?
So
like,
I'll be the person. No, I'll be the person on the stream who's like, that was not a Nazi salute. That was him being weird. I also think that the attempts to then single out other politicians who are putting their hands in the air as Nazis in order to own the people criticizing Elon Musk for the weird hand gesture is also super dumb. It's all dumb.
I don't see, but here's the thing though. I don't think it was fake. He did it twice. He did the same hand motion, and it's a very specific hand motion. It's my hand starts on my chest, and it ends up hailing a taxi in the wrong direction.
He's giving his heart.
Yeah, no. And then people are like, oh, but isn't he a Zionist? And I'm like, yeah, you know who else wanted all the Jews to move to a different country? It might be a guy with a mustache in a middle location. It's like, and then, oh yeah, he's a Zionist. He couldn't possibly be a fascist. Israel is fascist. Israel is a fascist nation committing a genocide ethnically and culturally cleanse. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like
my detractors are going to take that video clip of me out of context now.
Well, you know what? It's okay because they already irrationally treat me. So you're along for that, right? Anyway.
No, they're going to accuse you of being a Nazi sympathizer, which they've already done. At least one guy called you a Nazi sympathizer for defending me once.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's always fun. It's always fun. I don't care. They can label me whatever. I'm not gonna like. But, like, the general gist of it is, like, when it comes down to it, it doesn't matter whether or not his hand gesture was quote-unquote weird because he's still doing Nazi shit. So, whether or not he just, like, really had that reflex down because of a bunch of other things he's reflexively doing and being reactionary about, or whether or not he actually meant it like that, I don't care. He's still a Nazi.
My problem is just sticking up for Netanyahu when he clearly is a blatant liar. Netanyahu's been lying since the 90s about weapons of mass destruction, Gaddafi, Saddam, getting the United States into wars, trillions of dollars, and Netanyahu's lying now and he still sticks up for him. To me, that's worse than just...
Well, if you don't stick up for him, your family members end up no longer living under suspicious circumstances, so that's the reason why.
Here's the funny thing. People always argue with me. They're like, you can't say anything different. You can't. Thomas Massey is still alive.
His wife died and did you see the letter that was the letter of condolences by a major pro-Israel organization?
Mm-hmm.
It sounded like something a drug cartel would write.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm not saying I like the guy. Dan Bilzerian's okay. Candace Owens is okay. Although Candace Owens had some issues, I guess. I can name a bunch of them. Ryan Dawson.
Ryan Dawson is a Nazi.
But the argument is not, are they or not? The argument is, can you say anything that dissents with this state and be okay? I'm saying, actually, yeah, you can.
I'm just saying don't include Ryan Dawson because I've seen personally direct messages that he used to send when I was in a GM with him. And I've also seen videos that he's posted where he's literally just speaking Nazi rhetoric. So
okay, Dan Bilzerian, Candace, MMA Jake, he has a thing.
Oh, that guy's a Nazi. Jake Shields.
Jake Shields had Dave Smith on.
I don't care. So did Nick Fuentes.
Dan Bilzerian is also kind of a Nazi, by the way.
You keep on listing a bunch of people like that.
Dave Smith,
Myron
Gaines. Want to admit that privilege is real.
I don't see Myron Gaines as being a Nazi. He's probably
an idiot.
Well, he's just a general retarded piece of shit. I don't know if he's a Nazi. He's just a piece of shit.
An idiot.
Yes.
But regardless, like, whatever you think of these people, they're still doing what they're doing. Now, I know they've got pushback and threats, and like they send like mean, but I get nasty grams too. Like I've been called all the names in the book. I haven't gotten any letters yet, but still, you know, if I get to a certain level, I'm sure you get that. But that doesn't mean you can't oppose it, because that's not that big of an opposition to me, really.
Also, we've got a question. Was it a Nazi salute when Hillary Clinton did it? No, it was more of like this kind of thing. But like, Hillary Clinton is also a fascist. She talked about bringing the super predators to heel. She's part of a crime family that constantly loots poor nations and then leaves them destitute. Her family is also responsible for the bombing of the Sudanese Al-Shifa pharmaceutical factory that resulted in the deaths of 30,000 people eventually. The bombings of Kosovo, the absolute like genocide that has been waged by the Clinton crime cartel is immense, and they're direct servants of the global elite. We are ruled by a global network of fascists.
Right. I don't think you're going to see any arguments from us over whether these people are fascists. I think the only argument's over whether they're going to be like blatant about it, or if they're going to try to like keep it more on the down low.
Yeah, it's whether they're overt fascists, you know, doing a Nazi salute or not.
Here's the thing: most people don't recognize fascism. Like, I mean, much as I enjoyed the book 1984, I feel like it planted some very unrealistic ideas in people's heads about what it's actually like to live under a fascist regime. They think, oh, well, I'm not being woken up to do my mandatory exercises at 6 a.m. I'm not being monitored through a two-way screen 24/7. So therefore, it can't be fascism. Okay, fascism is often a lot less blatant than that. Like, you have a decent amount of freedom in your personal life as long as you don't cross certain lines. Like, you have freedom of choice to choose between a couple different brands of toothpaste, or a couple different options for your cell phone carrier. But don't step out of line. Don't venture away from the mainstream political narratives. You might find yourself labeled an extremist and have the war on terror turned against you. Things along those lines.
And you know, you say you don't have a two-way screen, but Kareem is looking at his, and now I am too.
That's the thing. Our electronic devices are monitoring everything we say at all times. So if you need actual privacy, keep all electronic devices away from you. They're always listening.
Or just put it in a Faraday bag.
The creepiest part is that, like, we've all had the experience of, like, we'll talk about something with someone in the room and then you get ads for it. But the creepiest thing is when you just think something and you get ads for it.
Yeah. True. Well, you know, and they do have technology.
I know for a fact I have not said out loud.
They do have technology that can, like, crudely scan your brainwaves. The World Economic Forum talked about it like 2 years ago, where they're using a crude scan of your brainwaves to interpret your emotional state. And when they're interpreting your emotional state, they can tell whether or not you're becoming agitated by your work and whether or not you're going to remain a productive cog in their machine. So,
what kind of
and I'm surprised that people
what kind of ads is it serving me when I'm agitated though?
Oh,
and I am surprised
it's not because you're at work.
I'm surprised more people aren't unsettled by that Neuralink thing that Elon Musk has been working on.
Well, especially
that's supposed to, a little weird.
Beyond that, it's the technology is bad. Like, his competitor is making a better version of the technology that's way less invasive and damaging. And instead of going with that technology, Elon Musk is doubling down on how to make his threads better.
And he's supposed to be Tony Stark.
Yeah, right? And so the competitor, so instead of doing wires that stick in the brain, the competitor is just sliding a mesh in between the brain, and the sort of sac, I think. Or maybe it's on the outside of the sac, in between the sac and the skull. And it just reads and writes from the outside well enough, because it's using sensors that like a much broader array of them that are just sitting on the surface. And it works fine. Like, people have had wild success with this, with much less injury and malfunctions that later require much more invasive surgery. So it's literally better technology. And instead of adopting that, he doubled down and went you know what, actually, we just got to make the wires better.
Right. Yeah. The biggest issue with the chips, like anything in the brain, is that like, yeah, the brain doesn't sit still. Like it moves slightly. So anything that's in your brain that's stationary, it's gonna eventually, yeah, it's gonna move around and it's gonna cause damage. So any sort of chip, like the initial results might be promising, but then over time it starts causing damage. So that's why these things are not in widespread use yet.
Yeah, like the one thing this Lou Ferrigno in chat is saying that I agree with here is that Neuralink failed. The human brain rejects the wires. That poor guy only got 2 months. That's why the subject was dropped. Yeah, he like, oh, what a awesome. He's playing video games. He's playing chess, and then the wires got jostled a little, spooked out of his brain, and went, "Look," and then he suddenly couldn't do shit anymore, and he had brain trauma.
Right, and same thing with the monkeys that they were testing it on. I think they all died pretty horrible deaths.
Yes. So Elon Musk is not only a fascist, but he's conducting these terrible experiments on people rather than simply improving his model. Because if he improved his model, he would have to switch to somebody else's model. And then he couldn't take credit and get more government funding.
But it's DARPA's model in the first place. A lot of people don't know that the Department of, this and that and the other, which
Advanced
is
Research Project.
Yeah, Advanced Research Project, which did create the internet that we're using now, which is interesting. And there's a lot of black box projects that we don't know about, God doing, doing who the heck knows what to who. We find out these things like, 4 or 5 months later. And that's my problem. It's actually a DARPA project. He's just the face of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to say in a free society, if you wanted to use engineered doctors, people used a bionic eye to restore sight. Nothing wrong with that. I like that idea. I like the idea of using technology, if you want to do it, to enhance your life. And obviously I have my limits. I'll do LASIK, but I'm not going to put like chips or, robotic, stuff in it. I'm not crazy about nanobots. I don't like EMVs because they give the government too much control. And I'm not a fan of having a robot fold your laundry because that robot's probably also spying on you. So a lot of his DARPA projects, to me, what's happening is the government's funding them. He's going on stage saying, hey, look at this. He's the PowerPoint guy.
He's the shuck and jiver. He's a modern day shuck and jive.
Yeah, he isn't this cool. He has a following, so it looks good. Basically, he's promoting it, just like you'd hire a spokesperson to promote a project or a celebrity to promote, like, gum or whatever. Like, it's like when, I think it was LeBron James, he's like, I love Burger King. Dude, you don't eat Burger King. Honest.
Well,
Same thing.
He might, but it's like once in a while. It's like, it's not like he's going home every day and getting a Big Mac and a supersize.
Yeah, so it's one like they get a pro athlete to like, oh, I love Burger King and Wendy's. Maybe they eat it once a year. So what they're doing with Elon is saying, hey, you're the front for this DARPA project, but we want it to be cool and hip. Now, there's only a very small percentage of people who have disabilities. So why are they interested in just helping people with disabilities? Are they just that altruistic? Government's become nice? Mm-hmm. Or is it for control?
Captive audience.
And now this Stargate thing, plus the chips, is making a whole lot of sense. Oh, oh my God, this cancer thing is out of control. Oh, was it because you in 2022 rolled out something experimental that when people didn't die, they got a turbo version? Yeah, we're sorry. And then also with all the junk in the food and water, cancer is going up. And I'm not opposed to the school of thought that says cancer also is accelerated or caused by parasites, but that's a different story.
Well, that might be a stream on its own. I could see if I could get an oncologist on board to talk about that sort of thing.
I know we have a few people in the medical profession that are in our circles.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a doctor, so I'm going to steer clear of that. What I will say though is, to me, what the second phase of a lot of what his technologies will be used to do is enslave humanity. in theory, if somebody was just doing all of his, like if he was just doing all this technology without any government involvement, yeah, that would be great. But to me, we've already seen the CIA hack an EMV, cars like that. I have people like, why do you have a car from 2010? Because I like it, it's good, and I don't need an LCD. I don't need anything fancy. Still works. It's like, why don't you have smart technologies, everywhere?
Yeah.
Why don't you talk to Alexa? I'm like, oh
They're
yeah.
annoying as fuck.
I mean,
They're
like, they're already spying on me now through the phone and everything else. I don't need to make it more. So that's really
all
what
the actual tech nerds don't use any of that shit.
Mhm.
They're like, no, don't use the Internet of Things. Anyway.
And then, of course, you've got people like, I think his name is Brian Johnson, measuring their son's erections. Oh,
That was so bizarre. I saw that post. That's the same son that he uses for his blood transfusions, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor kid. I want to read that kid's autobiography one of
Anything
these
is
days.
weird.
Wait, so he basically had a son so that he could harvest blood from him?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
God.
measure his erections.
They call him the human vampire. Brian Johnson, I think, is his name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Brian Johnson. He's a millionaire guy who wants to extend his life. Now, how he did it was he went vegan and he took like 100-some pills. I question what he does because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I can see that. But Amanda, you were going to say something about the tech earlier?
No, I was just saying that I was just making a comment on how annoying it was. Basically, that you
Yeah.
have all of these connections, and then as we were talking about, I think before the show went on, how the predictive AI is basically Clippy from hell from Microsoft Word, where you just can't get it to go away.
Yeah, it's in every single app. Every app, there's this update, and it says, now with AI. It's like, go away. Fuck off. I don't want your stupid AI.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's everywhere, because like every tech billionaire wants to be the next version of the awesome shit that they saw in sci-fi, so that they can then sell that and make billions. It's not actually about whether or not it's providing utility to the masses or being like creating a better future. It's about whether or not they can look good.
Right?
And that's the reason Trump is giving them $500 billion, even though they're oppressive, like fucking mass surveillance statists like Larry Ellison.
Yeah, because I mean, of course, they want to sell you on they're going to be the people who bring you into the future of the Jetsons that the Jetsons portrays when they're going to bring you more into an episode of Black Mirror, more than likely.
Mm-hmm. Black Mirror is such a good fucking show.
Oh, God, that whole episode, like, where everyone's rating each other on
Yeah!
the social media app.
It's
Yep.
exactly like that.
Yes.
And Elon Musk wants it to be like the everything app. He wants everything. And you were bringing that up earlier. Like, yeah, bank with us. Elon Musk...
Yeah, it's somewhat. Yeah, I pissed someone off because I accidentally cut them off in traffic, and they can downvote me and fuck with my ability to like get a bank loan or withdraw my money in a timely manner. Yeah, fuck that shit.
Yeah, holy social credit system, Batman. Like, no thanks.
Elon Musk the other day was lying. He retweeted somebody, quote tweeted them, and said that Grok had properly diagnosed their medical condition. And that isn't fucking true. Grok did no
Better
such
than
thing.
Dr. Google.
Well, possibly, but Dr. Google is also operating on AI, so you might get roughly similar audience.
He didn't used to be.
But like it's in this case, Grok misdiagnosed this person, and it was later found out by like 80 doctors who actually responded looking at the X-ray that this I think chick, I don't remember specifically, it was like, yo, I went to the doctor, yo, this hurts a lot, I think it might be broken, do you notice anything? And then the docs were like, no, there's nothing wrong here, go home, here's some pain pills. And like then she showed her X-ray to Grok, who then said that there was a small fracture that they had missed, and so she allegedly brought that back in to the doctors, who then admitted that it was there, but I kind of don't believe that story because like so many doctors were in the replies saying, yo, it's a fused growth plate and it's going to be a problem until it's like surgically intervened, but it's also not necessary to surgically intervene it because it'll probably most likely be fine. And like she just would not take any of these answers from the people in the replies. And so the community notes had to find the best ones and be like, yo, doctors are saying this is fucking bullshit. And this was after I had already, like, I said real early on, shut the fuck up. Grok cannot medically diagnose people. But like, even before that, it's like dystopian as fuck. It's dystopian to say, give Elon Musk your fucking medical records so that it can like give you a spat out
they're already out there. The state's already monitoring state's already monitoring our medical records.
Exactly.
Yeah, they want to, like, if you're prescribed anything that's a controlled substance, that goes to the state, and then you have fucking DEA agents who have no medical training whatsoever questioning your doctor's decision, saying, well, do you really need pain pills? We've decided that you don't need to be on pain pills, and we're going to go after your doctor for prescribing them. And yeah,
they give you a score in a database too if you're on pills, certain pills. Because I was told that I am in one of these databases, and the doctor had to check my score. I'm like, fantastic.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely am too. I have chronic sciatic nerve pain, so I've been to pain doctors. So yeah, I'm definitely in one of their databases.
Yeah, you got to talk to my friend at some point. He went through the ringer with that while his discs were like degenerating, and he had an autoimmune condition that also affected his endocrine system. So he had bone density issues as well, and all of that compounded in a slowly crumbling back that got progressively more fucked up.
Right, and he's still young too. Isn't he like not even 30 yet? Like, going through all this pain?
He's 32 at this point, but he wasn't when he got the surgery. He was in his like mid 20s, and like the medical system really fucked him over. Like
they do that.
Yeah, and just let his back get worse and worse until eventually he finally got somebody to give him the accurate diagnosis and refer him to the right people so that he could get his surgery. If that hadn't have happened, he would be paralyzed by now.
Jeez.
So, yeah, fuck the and then like I had another friend with similar back issues, actually a little bit worse, and he was in his like mid to late 30s. He got a worker's issue at Home Depot, and like a real bad back, and I like because of a bunch of government bullshit, I had to help him not only like get out from under his tax burden, but also help him like get his insurance forms properly filed, because until then he couldn't get his situation sorted out, and he couldn't get the proper workers' comp for what they did do medically for his back. So like, yeah, the medical system sucks, and
it really does.
And California's not better in a variety of ways. A lot of people think, oh, California's got Medi-Cal, Medicare. It's so good. And it's like, nope. No, it's not.
Oh my gosh, the worst.
Yeah, New York is the same. Like, you're gonna wait probably a month for an MRI if you need one because of the ridiculous certificate of need laws and limitations on who can practice.
Exactly, Amanda.
No, I was just going to say the hardest time I've ever had getting medication in a timely fashion has been in California by far.
Yeah.
It is not close because of all the rules that they have for these different substances. And yeah, you can't call the pharmacy to ask if it's there. So you can't find out whether your prescription is available. You have to wait until the day that your prescription is out to request an appointment to get a refill ordered. And then you have to wait for them to get in the refill. It's a mess. It's a nightmare. You can be off of your medication for a month or more.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, so these people are scanning my description. Feel free to support the businesses there. Also, feel free to subscribe and like. We're probably going to draw this to a close. It's near 2 hours. We'll have a lot more to talk about the next time we talk about EOs, which will probably be in a couple weeks. The next week, we'll probably get into more theory-based discussions. And there will also be a video upload version of both my previous Twitter space at Insanity is Free, and the next one. The previous one was about how Trump is a tyrant even though he freed Ross. The next one will be about how to build parallel societies to get away from, the sort of the control before the control mechanism swallows you, completely. So y'all feel free to subscribe if you want to talk more shit in my chat and be notified when this is happening. Ring that bell. And also tell all of your right-wing friends to come here and do the same thing. More the merrier. But let's do some wrap-ups. We'll start with Rose and do Kareem, Amanda, John.
Right. Well, if you want to find me, you can find me on most platforms. You can find me at Saint of Liberty on I refuse to call it X, so I'll call it Twitter. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me. The New York Libertarian Party now has its own podcast. It's called The Liberty Test. You can find that on the Libertarian Party of New York YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
It's, as usual, glad to be here. Fun times. I'll see you all next stream.
Oh, also, Lou Ferrigno says you didn't ban me, so I gave you a sub. Yeah, see, discourse is fine. I'm confident in my ability to respond to things, so... And eventually everything will get responded to, but, I don't have time in a given chat. Oh, he was saying a bunch of shit about various groups, I'll put it that way, in order to avoid repeating the stuff. But the chat has been interesting tonight, to say the least. So... Kareem.
All right, you know where you can find me. I'm on Sky now, so if you're a blue skyer, is that a thing?
I don't. It
is now, Kareem. It is now.
All right.
You call yourself a flyer. Actually, that'd be funny.
Yeah, blue flyer.
Yeah.
But yes, you can find me on Blue Sky. My name, Kareem Mays. Also Kareem6633 on X. Twitter, I don't really care. Anarch Unity, and check out Attack the System.
Amanda.
Wait, I thought, okay, am I next?
Yeah, I accidentally interrupted Kareem for a second there.
Are you done, Kareem? Okay, yes. Okay, yeah, so I'm on Twitter /X, join LP Alliance. If you're into that sort of thing. That's my plug.
All right. John.
And I'm on X. I'm still going to start writing things for Anarch Unity. You can find me. Those are places you can find me.
Cool. And I'll just say, as my closing statement, first off, again, tell everybody you know about this stream. Tell them you got a place where you can talk. And, we cover a wide variety of subjects, and we go into exhausting detail. So expect more discourse about various other executive orders. But my general comment that I'll leave people with tonight is, I'm not saying Trump is the worst person that will ever exist. I'm not saying that there's nobody worse than him on the planet right now even. But what I am saying is that people have a tendency to be bought. People have a tendency to be co-opted. People have a tendency to have one pet issue or very highly isolated thing that matters to them, that if Trump makes them a promise, they'll capitulate on a host of other issues to make that happen. The Libertarian Party did that with Ross Ulbricht, where it didn't matter what tyranny Trump was doing, what tyranny the people affiliated with Trump were doing. It didn't matter. What mattered is that they released one guy. Well, Trump's cartel bullshit, the fact that it's literally targeting legal U.S. citizens, Navajos, on their own reservations, people who are, literally legally papered here in this country, who pay taxes, who are part of the system, are getting arrested right now because, they couldn't immediately provide documentation. That's, evidence. It's all evidence. And the fact that he had to declare a state of emergency, call them terrorists, say that they were in the inner cities, so that he could go start to infiltrate a bunch of playlists. Yeah, I'm thinking about music already. I'm going to listen to some stuff after this. People, like, the fact that he was going to do this speaks volumes about any alleged liberty, because the drug war is the cause of these people's existence. The drug war is the cause of so much crime. The war on terror is the cause of so much global violence. All of it should be stopped. Anytime the U.S. wages war on something, they make it worse. So, like, ultimately, the truth here is that if he truly wanted to make a libertarian statement, he would be moving against those wars rather than strengthening them. It's the same thing as Javier Milei being like, I'm going to be, I'm so libertarian, do with yourself what you want, and then he has Patricia Bullrich as his bitch. Like, there's a shit ton of examples such as these of alleged libertarians or people who are trying to work with them, like selling out those people, selling them under the river because they never planned to be libertarian. They never planned to actually support the cause of the movement or the whatever. They planned on getting their pound of flesh and getting their power, and they don't give a fuck about you. So, like Ross Ulbricht, that's just an attaboy. It's you know, it's a way that they can get you to acquiesce. It is a concession prize. It's not the main goal. Any libertarian should recognize that and, like, push against the mechanisms that actually create these problems. Because if we don't, and if we're allowed to be bought by these terrible little fucking piddly prizes like one person while he puts so many people like them in private prisons, which he just reopened for the DOJ, and which he had 130,000 people in private prisons the last time he was in, then there's going to be so many more people that fall victim to this mechanism, and it will be at the behest of libertarians who never understood how to smash the fucking state.